Hi there, this is Eddie Cummings from Oz Coins and Metals on eBay with a couple of tips on mounting metals. I had somebody reach out a little while ago. They bought a brooch bar from me and they were wanting to mount some foreign metals. Two problems I guess they were facing. A lot of the time, foreign metals have different ribbon width to the Australian metals. Most Australian imperial metals are 32 millimeters wide, 32 millimeters across. The other issue the person was facing was having only very short lengths of ribbon. Now that's a pretty common problem, especially if you've got something very obscure or something from a foreign country. Obviously, ideally, you would replace ribbon when you're doing a metal mounting job of any kind. Sometimes it's not feasible, not possible, so we have to make do with what we've got. So I've decided to do a little how-to on what to do when you get in that sort of situation. So if we do a bit of research, we know that our length of our ribbons in Australia should be 9.5 centimeters once they're mounted. Now we can look here and we've only got just over 10 inches of drop there before we've even attached a brooch. So I deliberately made a short length of ribbon here to give you an example of some ways you can get around it if you don't have enough ribbon. As I said, if you've got Australian metals, the ribbons are very accessible, so there's really no excuse to not use the correct length. We're just using an old cast metal, replica metal here as an example today. We've done our normal blanket stitch. If you watch my other video on how to mount World War II medals, you'll see how to do a blanket stitch if you don't know how to do one. All ribbons will fray. All metal ribbons will fray, and they'll fray terribly, so they need to be held together. Okay, but we've done that. So we've got our short length of ribbon on our metal that we want to mount, and now we have to try and work out a way to get it um, onto the bar. So normally we would pop it through there. I've used a second-hand bar here as well. Don't worry about that. So there's a couple of things we could do. In Australia, we could actually go, well, that's going to be close enough. We know it's meant to be longer, but that's all we can afford, or that's all we've got, so we'll just do that. That's all well and good, but what if the ribbon is too wide to go through those holes as well? What if we've got an overlap? What if it's 6 or 7 metals? And as we know, the longest bar you can get in Australia is 5 slots. 5 slots is the longest you can get in Australia locally, as far as I know anyway. So here's our little workaround. We've just got some very thick cardboard, same sort of stuff that would be um, the thick cardboard, they say in a 3-ring binder or that type of thing. So you could, if you need to do this, you could sacrifice a 3-ring binder to get that cardboard. You'll notice there's no corrugations in it. It's not like a cardboard box cardboard. It's very firm, quite strong. So what I've done is we're imagining that I'm going to do 3 metals in total. So I've cut myself a piece of board. It's the width of the bar there, near enough. And I've only gone around about just over, what's that, about 2.2 centimeters. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to attach our metal onto this bit of cardboard. I'll show you how we're going to do that. We're going to attach it on there, and then we're going to attach our carded bit of ribbon onto our brooch bar. So that's how it's going to end up. So normally when I do any this type of thing, I usually tape it up with magic tape as well. It gives it a little bit of waterproofing. You'll see the ends there. I've actually painted them with some black texture and sealed the whole lot up with some magic tape. So gives it a little bit of waterproofing. Obviously, it is only cardboard, so if a lot of water gets in there, if you're out in the rain, the cardboard will swell. Okay, so you could use other mediums. You could use Perspex if you like for this. This is just one of many ways that you could accomplish this, but this is probably the easiest and cheapest way to do it. Okay, so we're gonna, in our situation here, we could hang our metal a bit shorter. But what we're going to do is we're going to hang this to the correct length for Australia. We're going to show you what you can get away with, how small a piece of ribbon you can get away with. So we're going to end up hanging our ribbon at the 9.5 centimetres, hopefully, if we've got enough to do that. Maybe not quite, but we'll get very close. Okay, so we're going to be hanging our ribbon there. I like to use double-sided tape when I'm to hold things in position for me as I'm going. So we'll do that. I'm just going to get a little bit of double-sided tape to hold our metal in position. Got that there. Peel that off. And as I said, I would normally have this sealed with tape and also have the end painted black. But this is all going to get pulled apart again, so it does not really matter. All right, so there we go. A little bit of bag there. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so that's just on there temporarily. Now we've got a couple of ways we can attach. We're going to mount all our metals to this bit of cardboard in theory before we mount to the bar. There's a couple of ways we can do it. We can make holes with our tailor's awl, like I've shown previously. I think the tailor's awl is a very handy tool, so we could punch a couple of holes through. Basically, I'm impaling the cardboard there. So we've got a couple of holes through there now. Now we could just sew our bit of ribbon on. There's one other way we could do it as well. We could really cheat. We could staple it on. I'm not a big fan of using the stapler because eventually those staples are going to rust. But for the purposes of this, I'll show you. So we've just stapled that on, and that staple has gone through. Now the staples are just sticking up, so we would obviously have to come along with some pliers, which I have here. We would have to press those staples down so that that's out of the way. So that's pretty strong. If you were going to use staples and you're doing overlapping, you obviously don't want the staples over this side because then it'll be getting in the way of your next metal. Okay, but those staples are on there. But let's, for example's sake, let's say that we weren't doing staples, we were going to sew it. So let's just quickly sew it. For sewing to bars, etc., I always like to use braided fishing line. Braided fishing line is very, very strong and it resists any tearing. So what I would do, I would go across like this. I wouldn't go up and down. Going across, you staying in line with. We've got these lines here, so whatever we see. If we do see any faint outline of any stitching or anything, it's going to be very faint and it's going to be going the same direction as our lines. Anyway, let's just sew this one down. Just going through. Found it. Did well. through. You can use the bit of cardboard on your table or whatever to kind of impale your needle to get it through. Alright, so that's secured now to that bit of cardboard. We can tie him off. Get rid of that thread because we're not continuing with any more. We're just showing you how to do it with one metal. Okay, so we've got our metal now is secured to our board. Our tiny little short little length of ribbon that we've got there is now secured to our board. So we would now go ahead and mount our other metals if we were doing more metals, and we would get them all to the correct drop. So imagine that we've got all three of our metals there. Obviously we're only going to go three, there isn't room for any more. If you're doing four, you'd have a longer bit of board. Now our next trick is going to be to attach to this brooch bar because we want to wear these medals on Anzac Day or Remembrance Day or whatever other day we're going to wear them, or we might be just putting them away for the future and we want them to be secure. Okay, so at this point I normally do put double-sided tape on a brooch bar. This one's got some old tape on it because it's a second-hand one. If you are putting double-sided tape, you're better off to not cover the holes. If you cover the holes, your needle and thread will get sticky as you're passing them through. So double-sided tape, peel it off, and you can then stick temporarily. This is just temporary. You can then stick your bar on there. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to sew through so that we're holding this cardboard bar to the metal brooch bar. So here there's a number of ways you can do it. It's whatever you really like. I'm going to go through there. So I'm going through there. And then I think I'm going to go through this bottom hole here. And then I'll go through the other hole there. And probably there. And there. You can see that. That's where I would be going through. Okay, so we've got our thread here that we used before. I'm going to start. Where will I start? We will start. Normally I would do another one up the top there. But I didn't leave myself very much room. I would normally go over the top. You can see that there's an old bit of stitching there, so we might do that. That is a good way to do it, even though it's going to be a little bit tight. Get it on there. So we will go through at the top. Through there. Don't worry about my long dag there. I would chop that off. Now I'm going to go to the bottom, through the hole at the bottom there. Tangle myself. Through the other hole. There. I would probably only go through once. You could go through twice. Let's go through twice just for fun. Go through again. Go through there. You could tie off a knot there if you want to. Normally I wouldn't. I would normally go up to my next one, which is going to be going through here and here. So I would go through here. And out there. You can see the scratches where I've chopped this bar off. This would have been an old job where somebody got an extra metal and I had to remove it. So you can see now threads going across. So we definitely want to tie off here. So we're going to go twice. You can go as many times as you like, but just remembering the more times you go through, the more chance there is of the thread showing through on your finished job. So another reason not to just use something cheap and use lots of it. Use good quality thread like a braided fishing line, and you won't have any dramas. If we were continuing on with our metals, at this point we would go now down. We would have holes through there and there, and through there and there, there and the top, and these two as well. So we just go boom, 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 boom. Pretty straightforward. Just chopping that off to get it out of the way. Okay, so imagine now we've gone all the way along and we've got our 3 metals and everything's down with thread. Now, if you look here, you'll see possibly a bit of a bulge. So that's from my poor effort there. But this is one of the beauties of the cardboard, is that because it's cardboard, you can actually get your fingernails and you can actually push your thread where it's coming out through the holes. You can push your thread down into the cardboard a little and you can get a nice flat look to it. So that's really one of the greatest benefits of the cardboard is the finish. Yes, some would say it is not as long wearing as something like a Perspex, but it is super accurate because you don't have to like use a hot needle and things like that to burn holes through your Perspex. You do get a really nice finish with the cardboard, so I've always used it, never had any dramas with it. Okay, so we've done that. Imagine we're all attached there. We still have the issue that you could wear them like that. They're secure. It's not going to fall off. I'm heaving on that. It's not moving. Okay, so don't have to do both. Remember I said I don't particularly like the staple because that if that does get a little bit wet, that will tend to rust over time. So I'm not really a fan of the staple, but I was just showing you guys that so that you can see there is some pretty simple options, but not the most secure thing to use. But you could, at a pinch, you could do that. But what we need to do now is we need to find a way to keep our metals so they're held there. Really, it's the only time I really like to use hot glue gun. I never would advise anyone to glue the actual metals down with a hot glue gun. I have seen it done, and I've seen metals glued down with araldite and all sorts of things. Obviously, that's an absolutely wrong thing to do, and nobody should ever glue metals down. And now that's moving because we didn't sew didn't sew all the way down there. But this is the one time that I will say hot glue. Hot glue is the easy answer here. So we've got our piece there, and we're just going to come along with a bit of hot glue. We don't want too much because we don't want it to bulge out, and we need to work fast because we don't want bulges from the glue. There's the glue. We press it down because we want it flat. We don't want to see any bumps from the glue. And the nice thing about the hot glue, if it doesn't work the first time, let it dry, pull it off, pick off the glue and have another go. But there we go. We're all glued down. That's our stitching from before. All glued down and good to go. So I'd usually give it a couple of minutes. But there we are. It's quite secure. You have to really properly pull on it to get it off. But there is your answer if you've got very short pieces of ribbon. You remember we ended up using what, 1/2 centimetre of ribbon we've actually got sitting over the top there. That's all we've used, and that is secure. That is not going anywhere. So yes, ideally we'd use a longer piece of ribbon, but at a pinch this will get you out of trouble and will still look very presentable from the front. So I hope you found this video helpful and useful. I will be doing a video shortly on how to swing mount overlap grips. So a lot of people ask me about mounting 6 metals. How do I do it? It's a little bit more complicated, but this bit of cardboard here is the basis of that system. So I will be doing another metal mounting video shortly, showing how to do the overlaps. And I thank you for joining me here. And if you're needing any metal mounting bits and pieces, including replica metals, brand new brooch bars, ribbon, all that sort of thing, I sell all that through my eBay store. The eBay store is the same name as my YouTube channel, Oz Coins and Metals, just one word, no spaces. So if you go into an advanced search on eBay and just search Oz Coins and Metals, and just check us out. We've got a lot of material up there. Over, I think it's nearly 1,200 items, and about 900 of them are metals and metal related sort of things. So check us out there. Please feel free to share this video amongst your friends, and thanks again for joining me.